I begged my stepmother, please don't ruin my relationship with my mom. I'm begging you. But you know what she did? She did exactly that, ruined everything. And now, all these years later, guess who's crawling back, begging for my assistance? And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have some fun. My stepmother's just reached out with the most absurd request. Imagine the person who ruined your life, coming back years later to ask for help. This time they're pitiful, and it's ironic because when you begged them for mercy, they just laughed in your face. The feeling of triumph after so many years is too much for me and my sister. We never thought that she would be down on her knees when a decade ago it was us. We were on our knees, tears streaming down our faces and telling her not to break our family apart, but did she listen? Well, let me take you back about a decade ago. We used to be a happy, healthy family until it all changed the summer I turned 14. My mother could not leave her room the whole day and did not attend my birthday. My dad tried to make the day good for me, but I was too upset. I could sense that something was wrong, and it's been weeks now, but I had no idea what it was. My birthday sucked, and I decided to take a stroll with my sister, who's 12, to the ice cream parlor. On our way back, we saw our father's car in front of the other house. A lady opened the door and let him in. We decided to watch the door, and hoping to hitch a ride with our father when he got out of the house. Imagine the shock we got when he got out of the house and passionately was locked into a kiss with that woman. We went home and discussed the best way forward. What we knew was that we could not tell Mom. Mom's been gloomy for weeks and something seemed to be very wrong. We would soon learn that my mother was suffering from a very major depressive period in her life. Our father was the one who told us this when we confronted him about what we saw. He told us that we could not tell her about it because it would break her heart and she would die. We told him that he needs to stop seeing this woman, and he said he would. He did not, though, and the situation at home got even worse. He spent less time with my mom, and he had lost all of her cheer. She would do the basic things for us, like clean and cook, but only sometimes. One day I got fed up and decided that my sister and I were going to fix our parents' marriage. I was clear that he was still seeing the other woman, even though I told him not to. So the next step was just to go to her house and tell her to back off. The last thing we wanted was for him to leave us for her. She did not know us when we visited her, pretending that we needed a donation for school. We sat in her house, which I hated. The colors too bright, everything seemed too shiny and tacky. I remember hating her yellow sofa. I would hate them for years to come. She made some lemonade for us and asked us to tell her about this donation. So my sister, Saphire, did not take long to get to the point. She told her that she knew that she was cheating with a married man and she needs to stop. She told her that we saw them and that our father always left the house at the same time at night. She first looked shocked and said that she did not know anything about it, but we persisted. I told her that she was the one doing something selfish because my mother was not feeling well. She was depressed, and I was scared about what would happen to her. She laughed and said that my mother has always been one to take things to heart. She then said that there was nothing that she could do to stop my father from coming to see her because it was clear he wanted her, not my mom. I start to cry, as I realized that all the hope of saving their marriage was gone. We left, defeated, but came back even more determined the next day. That's because we found out that my mother knew about the cheating, and that was the reason why she was depressed and losing weight. We found out about this through eavesdropping on my mother and aunt, and Saphire said that we would have to go and let the woman know what was happening to my mother. Surely she would show mercy that she's doing this to another woman. She surely would want to save my mom's life, right? We could all see that she was wasting away and just really needed some help. So this is what we did. We went back to her house, but she did not let us in. Right at the door, I went down on my knees and begged her to leave my father alone. She told me to get up. I was being silly. There was such contempt and coldness in her eyes that it stays with me to this day. My sister explained what was happening to my mother. She was crying as she asked this woman to save my mother by leaving our dad alone. We knew she was the reason for this and thought all would be solved if she were out of the picture. She told us to get up before she hit us. We were being silly and respectful. But when we got home, our father slapped the two of us and told us that we should not pull a stunt like that ever again. If we did, he would send us away to a boarding school. I guess there was nothing more that we could do than watch our mother die of a broken heart. She was gone within a couple of months. My father did not even wait a year before remarrying. He rented our house out and moved us into the same house as my stepmother, and I hated everything about the house. For over 2 years, we suffered under her rule. She was very terrible towards us, and our father did not really care. All he cared about was where he was going to get his next bottle of scotch. My father has always had a problem with alcohol. He and his mom used to fight a lot about it, and this woman did not stop him. All she cared about was his paycheck. He passed away not long after from drinking too much alcohol, and our stepmother shipped us to our mother's sister, who stays in another state, and we finished high school. We heard that she got remarried and now has 2 kids, about a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. Both my sister and I are orphans. We've worked hard to get our degrees, and I'm now a dental assistant and she works in marketing. We decided to move back to our childhood home not so long after, and we realized that the city was far too expensive for us and remembered that we had a home. We had to help each other restore the house to the way that it used to be. It was fun but also painful as we remembered our mother's last days. We changed everything in our parents' bedroom, and neither of us will be used to it. It will just be a guest bedroom. We've been here for over 2 weeks getting settled in, and we love it so far. It's nice to see people that we have not seen in years. One of the people that we bumped into was my stepmom. She's aged quite a lot and looks absolutely frail, and we asked her about the second marriage, and she said that it failed and he left her. We wondered why he left her, but came to the conclusion that she must have drove him nuts. The lady who owns the ice cream place confirmed that he ran away from her because she was nagging a lot. At least he managed to get away, but my father did not. Instead, he stayed with her because he was dependent on her. Then he drank himself to an early grave. Years later, I still do not forgive him. Maybe one day I will, but something big would have to happen for me to even consider forgiving him after all the pain we went through because of him. Now, this woman has come to see us, and she has a big request from us. We're still thinking about what she said since it was so shocking. But for me to get into that, I need to give context as the story of the history between us is long, and, this woman. This would explain why we were not inclined to help her after all that she's done. I also want to reach out and see if there were any other people who have had their parents' marriage break because of infidelity and how you've dealt with it. Both my sister and I are incredibly scarred from it. We will post an update with more information soon. Update number 1. So, here it is. The full account of what happened when my stepmother had the audacity to come to our home. Firstly, she left this house rot when my father passed. She threw out the tenants, took the key, and never thought about it. And when I turned 18, I was able to claim the house since he left it in our names. When she came into the house, she remarked on how beautiful it was. She carried on to make small talk about our lives and how long it's been since she last saw us. My sister and I were just looking at each other thinking how awkward. We never seen her in years, so why would we want anything to do with her? Her cursed marriage with our father barely lasted. Saphire offered her a seat, gave her some water, and then asked her what the hell she was doing in our home. Sapphire's definitely the most assertive one of us, and she's the one who usually fights battles when I try to keep a clear head. She says that I get quiet rage, which is more dangerous because I do not let it out. She said that she had come home here because we were her last hope. She felt that us coming back were a gift from God, an answer to her prayers. I told her that if she wanted money from us, she's not going to get anything. She shipped us out of town before my father's body even turned cold. We owed her nothing. She said that she understood that we owed her nothing and she respected it. She had just one thing to ask from us. It was not for her, it was for her babies. She said that something happened in her life and it made her reflect on her life choices. She tried to find us so that she could apologize over the years, but we blocked her everywhere. She said that karma had come full circle for what she had done to my mom and she was sorry. She just wished that it had come for her when her kids were already grown. I was starting to get tired of her running around in circles. What was it that she wanted? My sister seemed to read my mind because she told her that she had 5 minutes to explain herself before she gets herself kicked out. Well, she then blurted that she was the final stages of cancer. As she said that, I suddenly noticed her and really looked at her because I've been avoiding her gaze for minutes. She did look very, very sick. I could even see her collarbones, and I noticed that she had put makeup on her face to give it color, but her hands have given her away. My sister called it BS and told her to leave. We were not going to take care of her after what she did. Did she not have a family? She then said that she would never burden us with having to look after her. She had accepted her fate and stopped going into treatment. Within a few weeks, she was going to hospice where she would soon die. She just wanted to get her affairs in order before that, and she had no friends anymore for she alienated all of them. No one seemed to care about what was going on in her life, and she felt it was deserved. She had accepted her fate and did not want to be a burden to them, and the only thing that was worrying her was the fact that her kids would be left alone, with no one to take care of them. She said that she did not want to have them stay with strangers. They were only used to her, and she thought it would be better if they stayed with her closest relative, which were myself and Saphire. So, she had come to our house to beg us to adopt her kids. She had some money saved up for their expenses, and she just wanted to make sure that they had a warm home. My sister let out a weird sound, and her next words confirmed that she was scoffing. She said that Andrea was the reason why we were orphans, and never had our parents there for our milestones. Why the hell would we help her? She told her that she deserved the slow, painful death that she was experiencing, because that was what our mother had gone through. Saphire told her that she wished that she had sleepless nights and that she could not even eat properly, that she would be in pain till the very last day of her life. Even then, the pain would never make up for the pain that she caused us. As she spoke, I felt a lump in my throat. The pain was there no matter how much time has passed. I told her that we could not help her and that we needed her to leave. She said that she would go down on her knees if it was needed, and before I could stop her, she was on her knees and was begging us to help her. I just stood there feeling no sympathy for her. It was ironic that once it was I begging her to save my mother's life. Our answer was what hers was. We would never help her. No matter how bad her situation was or how remorseful she was, we've been kids, and we did not deserve what she did to us. I went, lifted her from her kneeling position, and made my way to the door with her. She tried to resist, but she was simply too weak, and I just gently pushed her out the door and slammed it shut. My heart was racing, anger, confusion, pain, so many other emotions. If I were to list them all, then I would simply run out of writing space. Update number 2. Hey, you would not believe the dirty trick that woman tried to use so that we could help her. Now, I'm adamant about not helping her at all. Why can she not respect the choice that we've made? Why would she try to toy with our hearts like that? My sister invited our preacher over for dinner with his wife and kids, and our family's always been close with them, and they helped us a lot when Mom passed. They would let my sister and I stay at their house on days when stepmother was being too much. When we did not get presents for our birthday, they made sure that we did. So I can say that a family has a special place in my heart. She knows it, and it's why she tried to use them to manipulate me. She managed to tag along to dinner, along with her kids, and I did not want to make a scene, so I calmed my sister down. My sister was determined to kick her to the curb, but out of respect for our preacher and his family, I made her calm down because dinner was good and very uneventful. I did notice that the kids, Ariana and Duke, were very sweet and helpful to me and my sister. My sister texted me throughout because she was absolutely raging. She said clearly this woman was trying to guilt trip us into taking her kids, and I had to agree this was all too suspicious. After dinner, the preacher brought up the topic. He said that he was glad we decided to come back to our roots. He also said that times were tough, so it was important to have family. He then said that it was good that our stepmother had us at this time. I could not stop my sister from saying that was a misunderstanding and that woman was no family of ours. He then said that he knew a lot had transpired between us and he was just of the belief that forgiveness was important. He proceeded to give us a whole lecture about how forgiveness was important, and he basically made us feel like a-holes for not wanting to take in two innocent children. We tried to tell him that we were very busy with our lives and trying to settle down into town again. He just went on and on, trying to appeal to our empathy. By the time dessert was served, well, I was done talking. What was the point in talking to him when he was not going to respect the choices we've made? My sister did not back down from what she said in the beginning. She said that she did not know these kids and owed our stepmom no favors. She was not about to inconvenience herself because of the woman who led our mom's demise. In the end, the kids came back asking if the dessert was ready. Everyone changed the topic and we went on with our evening, and by the time everyone left, I was drained. I was annoyed. I decided that I needed to let it be clear to my stepmom that we would not help her. No matter what she did, we had no sympathy for her, and not after the pain she caused us. My sister and I went to bed right after they left, but we were both very, very upset. The next day, we did not discuss it. What was there to discuss when we've decided that we did not want to help her out? Later that day, I went out for lunch. While I was peacefully eating my lunch, Andrea came to sit right across from me. The food in my mouth immediately turned into dirt. She said that she wanted to appeal to me one more time, and she knew that I had already made a choice, but she wanted to try again. She said that I've always been the more responsible, reasonable one, while my sister was simply too aggressive. I asked her if she meant that I was a pushover. I let her know that what she did to the previous night was a dirty move. Clearly, she had never changed, and she was still playing the same game as usual. I told her that I'm going to leave. She grabbed my hand right as I was about to stand up, and her grip was strong. I suddenly had a flashback of her grabbing my arm and digging her nails into me when I was a child, and did not want to listen to her. Now the power dynamics have changed. I put my walls up very high as she continued to speak to me. Anyone else would have melted when she spoke about how she had barely been able to get out of bed that morning, how she could not sleep, and how she feared every day would be the last. She worried about what would happen to her kids and did not want them to be punished for what she had done in the past. I should have pitied her. She had been reduced to all this, and I told her that if there was even a chance that she would go to heaven, she should say hello to my mom, and yanked her away from mine. Well, the next thing I knew, she was falling off the chair. I ran to help her, but she passed out. Her body looked lifeless. We tried to get her to wake up, but in the end, we had to call an ambulance. We got there in time, and she was admitted. I'm now sitting in the hospital waiting to hear the news. Is she gone? Update number 3. She's been bedridden since she collapsed, and her conditions worsened with each passing day. Soon she'll have to go to hospice, and when she woke up, she begged us to take her kids. I told her that we would, but while she was alive, she had to start the process of getting them adopted. There was nothing much that we could do for them, and I then asked her if she really thought we would treat them well considering what she did to us. Neither of us is cruel of a person, but can you imagine? All those kids got older and started to look like her. Our hate would only continue to fester. We could not open our hearts up to our children just because of the fact that they share DNA with her. Needless to say, they stayed with us for not even a full week. Their mother got a hold of someone while she was weakening, and soon they were taken into the system. After they were taken to the system, I never went to my stepmom ever again. I could not look her in the eyes. It was all too much for me. Things at home were not the same as well. My sister was not happy about the fact that I even let them stay with us for a couple days. For them to even stay with us, I had to emotionally blackmail her. That's not something that I want to ever do to her. The only reason I did that last little act of kindness for her was because I wanted those kids to be away from me. At least in the system, they'll find a foster family, and hopefully we'll never have to see them again. They're too much of a reminder that she could love her own kids, but she could not love us. We were only ever good enough to help her once everyone had left her. Now she's facing the Grim Reaper. It'll not be long now before we hear the news that she's passed. She decided that she would be cremated, and there would be no funeral. There's no one to go anyways, to be honest. I've heard that her ex-husband came to visit her once, and it was to try to claim what she had left. He was met with a court order to leave her property. It turned out that she had sent him divorce papers that year that he left, and they were no longer even together, so he could not claim a thing. I kept on expecting him to maybe try to find the kids, but he didn't care about them. All he cared about was the money that he stood to gain once she was of no more. If she was smart, she would have left the money to her children. I'm assuming that she did so, and I guess now we just wait. Update number 4. Hey guys, a quick life update. This is going to be more about me and my sister than about my stepmom, but I'll tell you what happened with her. We got the news that she passed away, and yes, she was cremated, and the hospice dealt with that. People who have been in town sent condolences to me and my sister. That upset her a lot. On the first day, I thought that she was just agitated and she would get over it, and that was not the case, unfortunately. Saphire was not the same after that day. One day, she snapped at someone while we were out shopping. I had just gone to, the back to look for something when I heard shouting. When I got there, she was busy swearing at a man who used to be a friend of our father's. It was like she blacked out. She was letting it all out, saying that we had done nothing to stop his friend from cheating on our mom. Now how dare he tell her condolences for his mistress? The poor man was just standing there, probably wishing that he's never opened his mouth. I went up to my sister and took her away, and I mouthed an apology to the man who led her away. I paid for everything, and then we just went to the car. We sat there in silence, and I could feel her anger subsiding. I told her that we need to go to therapy. We never go, to properly deal with what happened over the years. She said she was fine. She didn't need therapy. She was not going to allow Andrea to mess with her from beyond the grave, and she was stronger than that. I told her that it had nothing to do with who's stronger. It had to do with healing. We need to do this for ourselves, not for anyone else. I told her to look at us. We've been inseparable for years, and none of us even had a relationship because we had trust issues. She told me to stop. She did not need to see us shrink, and I should just let it go and not press further, but I did not. The next thing I knew, she opened the door and left, and I tried to call her, but she kept on walking. I decided not to go after her. When she had these fits, no one could calm her down, and I knew I had to drive back home and wait for her. She would come back home soon. So I did that. She came back a few hours later, and she was cordial, but she did not laugh or smile for the rest of the day, and the next day I was going to work since it was an off day. I decided that I wanted to go into the attic and tackle some stuff in there. There wasn't much in there, and I was done not long after. When I came down to throw the things in the garbage, I saw that my sister was doing it for me. From her, it meant that she was sorry. I smiled at her, and we helped each other out. That was when something fell onto the floor. It was a picture. A picture of my father and Andrea. I was surprised that it was even here inside of our home, so I picked it up and checked the year that it was taken, and guess what? It was about 3 years before he cheated on my mom, so they've known each other for a long time and had taken the picture when he was with Mom. I wanted to ask him the context of the picture, but I could not, for he's not here. Suddenly, my sister grabbed the picture and starts ripping it to shreds. She then tore through the trash, saying that she was going to erase any memory ever that they had something to do with that woman. I watched her do this for a while, and then she just collapsed. She broke down terribly. That night, we made an appointment with a therapist. We had days we went together, and we had individual days, and I will not bore you with the details, but you can imagine how it went. We did see some improvements in our lives after that, though, and we stopped being so codependent and actually made friends with other people. We started to go out and try new things, which really helped to distract us. We also worked through the heavier things and learned how to forgive and forget. Though it was hard, the biggest milestone was when my sister did not lose it when someone mentioned Andrea to her anymore. I'm so proud of her progress that we've made. Well, today's story was ultimately sad, but it did have its up and downs, and at least OP and OP's sister Saphire, they're able to get some counseling, some therapy, and just try to make their life work out, and it did seem like Saphire was having the harder time of the two coping with the reality that they lived in. But I do want to know your thoughts about it, guys. Let's talk about it down below in the comments section. Do you agree with the reaction from OP and OP's sister Saphire by basically refusing to help at all? A lot of the comments were mixed on this one. Some of the people were saying they don't owe her anything. They don't have to help her. It doesn't matter if she has kids of her own because OP has no ties to those children. And they don't care about her because she was terrible to them growing up. But there are other commenters that say, you know what, this lady was coming to you because you're all she has left in her time of need, and she's not asking you to take her in or anything like that. She's simply making sure that her kids are going to be okay. So I can kind of see that perspective as well. This was a really messed up story and it had a lot of ins and outs to it, but let's talk about it in the comment section down below. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every day. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you tomorrow. And of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.